While it is true that some of the heroes of that struggle have been forgotten because of the political developments in our country, I dare say so many of them are still alive today with authentic experiences, authentic contribution. Some of them suffered a lot. Some were maimed like us. And I think that by the singular act of the honor given by President Muhammadu Buhari to MKO Abiola posthumously, by that singular act, he's been able to recognize all those, even directly or tangentially, who fought for that, who were part of that struggle, who suffered, dead or alive. It's a reward. The news magazine and Tempo magazine then was lucky to have had three, I call it the tripod, the troika. Baba Jide Otitoju, myself, and late Bagauda Katu of blessed memory. We traversed, and of course, Alex Kaba. We traversed the north, the entire northern territory, including Abuja, for the news magazine. I think the news was also that strong because they had a network of courageous and professional correspondents spread across, who had a knack for investigative journalism and also were fearless. We talk of Bagauda Katu with pains in our hearts because he was a leading light. We feel the pain because his body, even as of now, has never been found. He was brutally murdered, and he played a key role in what we did. And we recall clearly that Bagauda was picked up in Abuja, was taken to Lagos, was tortured to death, and his body never found. Myself and Bagauda were in Kaduna. We traveled to Jos, just getting stories together. We were supposed to sleep over in Jos, in my house. We slept over. On Sunday, he said we should return. I said, let's stay till Monday morning. He said he wanted to come back to Abuja to do a report. We were living in the house of a lawyer who is from his own village in Bilere. He was hiding us. So I followed him to the garage in Jos. I put him in the vehicle. I said, listen, you go ahead if you insist. I want to stay back one more day. As soon as we got to Abuja that day, that was the last time anybody saw. Because by Monday, when I was about to come into Abuja, I got a message from the lawyer saying, don't come near the house. And that's how it disappeared. We moved, we were printing from churches. We went underground. But we kept exposing the military. We kept their feet to the fire. And eventually, something gave. I was fortunate in the heat of the crisis. They had arrested virtually everybody. We were running from one church building to one rat hole. In the midst of all that crisis, I was able to I won a fellowship to study at New York University. And then it became a problem to travel out. I couldn't go to the airport. I was told clearly they will pick you up. So I left through Ogun State. I went through the popular Nadeko route. Said Mulero, who is originally from Togo, Benin Republic, is now dead. Was the one that ferried Tinubu, Dakwalon Yomi and his wife. He ferried them across. Simple, difficult process. You just travel. My passport was actually hidden under the petrol tank of the bike. I traveled in a flip-flop, bathroom slippers. I dressed like a local trader. We rode on the bike in the dead of the night through the pathways until we got to Port Novo. Slept over in Port Novo one night, then moved on to Cotonou, and then I went to Ghana. It was from Ghana I boarded to America. Chido Onuma, I will remember, was the one that housed me in Ghana for a day before I could join. But let me tell you what happened. When I boarded in Ghana, I haven't escaped through the Nadeko route. the airline I boarded, decided they would fly back to Nigeria to pick passengers. So, the most difficult 2 hours of my life. We got to Nigeria and the SSS men, the security men, poured on the plane, looking for journalists and the rest. I've never prayed that hard in my life.
It has never happened, and it hasn't happened ever since then, for the opposition, for a man running for the office of president in Nigeria to lose his polling booth in presence of Alhaji Tofa, lose his ward, lose his local government, and lose his state to a well-acclaimed and accepted person like Chief MKO Abiola. Of course, Chief Abiola was very tactful. He knew his ambition, and he probably worked for it for over a period of about 15-20 years, moving to the nooks and crannies of this country, selling himself until he became a brand. Now, to make it easier for him, by the time he had the national debate, because I was in politics then, he made mincemeat of his opponent. And where they thought that he could box him into a corner about increasing the pump price of fuel, and he answered and said, I am a chartered accountant, I must wait and see the books before I can talk about anything like that. Now, so he was somebody who was prepared for it. And it was accepted for the first time, and it will be the last time in the history of this country, that we had a Muslim ticket and religion played no role in who was to become the president. And then to criminally annul an election like that was travesty of justice and much of injustice, not only to Chief Abiola, but to those people who went out, queued to vote for him. And this is why it is a welcome development to right the wrongs of the past. Yes, other governments have come and gone, didn't see it as their priorities, probably not that they didn't believe it was right. Even if people say it is for political reasons, yes, even in our families we play politics. But for him to have done what he has done, for Mr. President to have done what he has done, taking the bull by the horn, not minding whose ox is God. Because there are people in high places today who have had opportunities of doing the same, who didn't do it. How funny. Because after everything happened, typically every Yoruba man that you saw was Afelefele. Meaning, Afenifere to them was Afelefele. Was Nadeku Afelefele. Nadeku Afelefele. The only sad thing is that we had some Yorubas who betrayed Yoruba nation. We are those of them who created fake newspapers only to propagate Sani Abacha, General Sani Abacha, and run down Chief MKO Abiola. But that has come and gone. Tọmọdé ò bá bá tàn á bá àrọ́bá, pé àrọ́bá kan gbé ọba ìtàn. A lot of stories will still be written, a lot of books will still be written, because Chief Abiola was a brand and still remains a brand and will always remain a brand.
I participated as much as I could in that movement and effort. June 12 is a living testimony to the Nigerian people's awareness of their right to choose and their right to have democratic liberty that guarantees the choice of whoever they believe is their own preference for governance. If you were recalling how the event of that day occurred and the massive turnout of Nigerians of all hues, and that resulting in a democratic mandate that defied all the primordial sentiments that had hitherto prevented the evolution of a pan-Nigerian, truly pan-Nigerian leadership. Which everybody was actually expecting. And the callous annulment of it, which again inspired a huge national movement for his validation, and out of which ultimately came the present dispensation. To me, June 12 is the soul of our democratic history, which has culminated into what we have now, and for which several people are either directly participating or had participated and will participate. So it's a watershed. It's a watershed in our democratic journey. And I appreciate the recognition given to the democratic expressions of Nigerians from that day up until now, that it has been actualized in part. I join with those who, while recognizing the significance of what has been done and commending the effort and acceptance of that day and the events that the date symbolized, I believe it is still very important to fully accomplish what the election of that day sought to do. We must recognize the results of that election, announce the winner, declare him as the president-elect, and accord him all rights and privileges due to a man or any person that is so elected. To the Bella family, I join them in this moment of excitement for the recognition of a mandate that their patriarch had and was callously annulled. I share their joy that they are waiting is not in vain, as I am joyous too that our sacrifices are not in vain. And I believe this will serve as a lesson to all those who think they can hold back history by brutally repressing people and oppressing people with the power that they have. We have seen that no length of time is long enough to hold back the course of history. We are living through an historic moment. There are 25 years. Cannot hold back truth and justice. So let us dare to struggle so as to dare to win.
It was like a war between the military, serious war between the military and the journalists that time. And you can understand it this way. The journalists were trying to conscientize people. The same people that the military was interested in browbeating, in crushing. The military wanted to deck the minds of people, mangle the minds of people in a way that will make it control the people. And you had the journalists saying to the people, giving people information that made them critical of the military. So it wasn't just a physical fight. It was also a battle of the mind. And the military knew that it was not going to win that battle. And so they went, the soldiers, the generals went after the journalists. So it was understandable. And they killed, they maimed, and they weren't going to be merciful at all. I mean, because they wanted to continue to enjoy the perks of office, and they wanted to continue to enjoy that power. So, I mean, the battle raged on. It raged on until they slammed people in jail, they killed people, and nothing. The country was no longer at ease until Abacha died. By the time I went to jail, 24 members of our staff were in various detention camps. Okay? And those of them who are not in detention camps went on exile, went underground. Why was that so? It was because it wasn't just one person that was doing all of this. It was a collective effort. Okay, so because it was a collective effort, there was no way my being sentenced to life imprisonment will put an end to the effort. It's not about closure. It's about memory. Memory is important. It is memory that will remind you of what you need to treasure, that will remind you of what you need to forgive, that will remind you of why you should not repeat an error. So it's about memory for me. It's not about closure. All right? And the importance of memory, you can look at the importance of memory from the capacity of your computer. Okay? A computer without memory is no computer. Okay? What is the capacity of the memory bank of this country? Okay? How do we use this memory to build an egalitarian society? I'm far more interested in that. It's not just about this bravura, the celebration of consecration of MKO Abiola and Gani Fawehinmi and the others. No. What can we use this memory for? What can we use it for? What kind of politics are we ready to play, with it? Is it egalitarian? can we use this occasion to talk about how to make poverty a thing of the past in this country? That's what what I mean by building an egalitarian society, and a society in which it will be possible for children of the rich and the poor to go to the same school, where it will be possible for you and I and the rich people to go to the same hospital and be treated well. A society where you won't have your president and people like him going abroad for medical attention. A kind of level playing field where everybody will be respected as human beings. I've listened to people talk about, this is why now. This is an opportunistic thing that the president is doing. My answer is, it is better late than never. And we must understand the context in which this is, where this is, being done. People with whom we went to jail did not do this. Chief Olusegun Obasanjo ought to have done this. We went to jail because we did not want him to go to jail. Why didn't he do it? This is why people have been saying, look, it's a shame on him that he didn't do it. Why didn't he do it? So we must give credit where it is due. People shouldn't take away the credit of doing this from this man, from General Muhammadu Buhari, the president. That would not be fair,
Before Abiola went to politics, he called some of us and said he's planning to go into politics, and he's thinking of which of the two parties at that time, because we had two parties. Babangida created two parties at that time, the SDP and the NRC, and he was thinking of which one would be the best political party for him to pitch his tent. So we felt that, given the charity must begin at home, and we felt that if the whole of Southwest was in the SDP at that time, so logically Abiola should be in the SDP. So we didn't want him to go into NRC at that time. So we advised that he should be in the SDP. So eventually he joined the SDP, and that's how it all started. And we all started the electioneering campaign and so on. We went to Jos for the primaries. He won the primaries at that time and so on. We were also instrumental to doing the campaign with Dr. Mrs. Toyin Abiola, who was our MD in Concord at that time. So if I will prepare the acceptance speech that he delivered at the primary, myself, Todiri Alake and Sheikh Mobatokwe, we came together to prepare the acceptance speech at that time and so on. So when he won the primary, we started. That was where we met Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He had an alliance with MK Abiola at that time. So we all came together and we were all working for Abiola to make sure that eventually, we are hoping that he will eventually win the election and so on, which he did. He won the election, the June 12 election and so on, and then the military dictator, President Ibrahim Babangida, cancelled the result of the election and so on, and that's why we all found ourselves in June 12 struggle. We were all in Chief MK Abiola's house when the announcement was made. We felt that this must be madness. It was a kind of madness. So how come somebody, the result was still coming out? I think we had gotten results in about I think we had about almost 21 states at that time. 21 states at that time and so on. We already gotten results in about almost 14 or 15 states and so on. And this guy, he just had the result had been stopped, and then MK was leading quite all right, and eventually he won the election. And then we learned that Babangida had cancelled it. We all, it was an outrageous thing we just felt that this was madness. When the result was cancelled, first of all, all of us became outrageous and became, we all became angry and so on. We started we were using the media, using every platform. We were using all the social platform at that time. All the democracy, the pro-democracy movement and so on. They all came together. All the progressive elders and so on in the southwest and everywhere and so on. And they were all attacking Babangida, all condemning how could he have cancelled the election and so on. Even the international community became so angry. I mean, how could you have cancelled the result? In fact, what started at that time was that there was a massive protest in Lagos, in the southwest, and in several other states as well. There were a lot of massive protests. The labor movement, the student movement, and every other civil rights movement and so on, they all came out and started protesting and so on. And they were just, that was how the June 12th struggle started. Eventually, Babangida came to shut down our newspapers. That's Concord at that time. They shut down Concord because we were in the forefront of, and they shut down the Punch newspapers at that time too, because they felt that Punch was also, and later, I think eventually Guardian and several other papers. So because the whole media at that time, they were really against it and so on. So, and that's how we went to the June 12th struggle and so on. We joined the pro-democracy movement, we joined everybody, and we started the campaign. After 3 months or so, they opened our newspaper. They shut it down again for another 2 years, almost 2 years. We were shut down for almost 2 years again. Then later, Abiola was arrested and so on and detained, but we never stopped the struggle. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was in the forefront of the struggle at that time, in fact, there was a time when his life was threatened because he was the forefront of the struggle as a leader of the pro-democracy movement at that time and so on. He had to escape abroad, and while abroad, he was in contact with us, those of us who are on ground and so on, who are printing the leaflets, doing all sorts of things, collaborating with pro-democracy movements and ensuring that they kept the struggle on and so on. So we were constantly in touch with him and so on, and he was also financing some of the pro-democracy struggle that we are undertaking at home and so on. So, but we never give up.
Some of us decided to involve in the June 12th issue because our own leaders from Niger Delta, the great Ovie Kokori, I'm happy that he was invited by the president now to attend Tuesday ceremony in Aso Rock. May his soul rest in peace. My brother, Warebe Agamene, he died. He was one of the oil workers that mobilized the oil workers to go on strike with Ovie Kokori. Some people wanted to manipulate June 12 as a Yoruba issue, but Nigerians like Rear Admiral Kanu and others, and people like Ovie Kokori said, no, this is a national matter. So those of us who are grassroots young men at that time, in fact, the arrest of Ovie Kokori and Warebe Agamene made me to mobilize the fishing communities around the area to also go and demonstrate, block roads, and we were in charge of K2 Mile 12 Ojota Ikorodu to make sure that no movement obey the strike action, and this strike action is in the interest of Nigerians, not because of Yoruba issue. Abiola goodwill, was so pronounced that you don't even know where he come from. The way he carried out his goodwill as a Nigerian, it was wonderful. And for the first time in our history, we are seeing a wonderful election that give hope to Nigerians. But some cabals decided, and we said, no, let us confront the cabal. But the major thing that made some of us to really come into the matter is that the government at that time, Babangida government, wanted to manipulate the issue as a Yoruba matter. This is Yoruba affairs. Other people should get, no, this is not Yoruba affairs. This is national matter. This is Nigerian issue. Nigeria should be the focus point. Abiola lost his wife. He died in prison. All his properties, everything destroyed, this and that. He sacrificed everything for the sake of this country. But he's still living because we are talking about him and all that. So those who suffered because of this country, those who make sacrifice and all that, people will remember your good deeds. So I believe that we should not have such type of annulment spirit in our life because it set us back. But we continue to make sacrifice for our society because one day we will all leave this world. But what we stand for and whatever effort, like Mandela in their own country, these are the reference points that move a nation. So I believe it's a very, very good decision by this government to honor June 12 Abiola and all others who were involved, including my lawyer Femi Falana, who assisted the Ijaw people. You can imagine when some people wanted to manipulate and say the June 12 is Yoruba agenda. When we had problem, government wanted to dredge our river without environmental impact assessment, wanted to sink us. A Yoruba man was the lawyer of the Niger Delta people. My lawyer was Femi Falana. He's not from Niger, he's not from South. So we are all one. We are all one. Whether you are from Nasarawa, you are from Yobe, you are from Katsina, you are from Kano, you are from Benue, you are from Oyo, you are from Lagos. We are all one. That is what to make others to fear us and respect us as a nation. Abiola goodwill, was so pronounced that you don't even know where he come from. The way he carried out his goodwill as a Nigerian, it was wonderful. And for the first time in our history, we are seeing a wonderful election that give hope to Nigerians. But some cabals decided, and we said, no, let us confront the cabal. But the major thing that made some of us to really come into the matter is that the government at that time, Babangida government, wanted to manipulate the issue as a Yoruba matter. This is Yoruba affairs. Other people should get, no, this is not Yoruba affairs. This is national matter. This is Nigerian issue. That was it. And we thank God that today, Buhari is now making June 12 relevant in our history, more pronounced. We are in democracy. Whether you are a military man before, naval officer or whatever, now that you are wearing the uniform of democracy, we hope you behave like a Democrat. And what he has done now is actually one of the cardinal points of democracy.
I was one of the people that drove Abiola away from his house to contest, to indicate interest and then contest. Through letters to the editor, through writings, a lot of other people, that we need somebody like you at a time like this to rescue this nation. And as God will have it, he declared interest. It will take my book to tell you how we made it happen. Through option A4, the best election ever witnessed in the history of this country on June 12th. Everything was done to stop that election when they felt, the powers that be felt that Abiola was going to pick the ticket. Initially, the IBB never believed it. At the time, Abiola told us in his house that he called him, IBB called him, and was telling him, look, even if you lose the election, don't worry, another day will come, just accept it, thinking that Tofa will win. So they were never prepared for Abiola's victory, the powers that be. It was a silent revolution that we are not prepared to handle, and it just came. So between that 23rd, when he annulled the election, and the crisis that followed, the man did not even get himself. At times, he was behaving as somebody who was taking drugs. The force was too much. The trouble was too much for him. That when he was pushed out, he couldn't even read a press statement. He was just pushed out. The rest is now history. But he won the election. But because they were not prepared for it, he had to annul the election. There were so many things out there. I understand. Some generals surrounded him at gunpoint and said, you must not approve this result. You must cancel the result. And he did it. He didn't stand his ground and said, look, I'm not going to do this. He succumbed. to their threats, and the rest is now history. We struggled. Now Buhari has done it. You see, what is the lesson? You see, no amount of trial can blow down a man who trusts, an innocent man. No amount of trial. They decimated the family, decimated his businesses, put the family in disarray. Nobody cared until Buhari came. That's why we are celebrating Buhari. Babangida did a lot, but that annulment destroyed, decimated every achievement he recorded in Nigeria in almost 9 years. He came in 1995, 85, promised that he's going to go in 1990, did not go. 1991, he did not go. 1992, he did not go until he was forced out in 1993. What if Abiola had ruled Nigeria? Do you think Nigeria will be where it is today? What if Abiola had ruled Nigeria? We have continued to make it a national discourse. He would have transformed this nation because he said he's going to give us hope. They killed him. So, you see, a lot happened. Generals went down. Some of them were retired. Because the annulment of the election led to so many things. There were people who were loyal, people who said, soldiers, generals who said, look, we can't sustain this. They were eased out of the army. Abubakar Umar is one of them. So many generals, their heads were cut. They were removed with ignominy. It was war all over.
Nigeria, unfortunately, at that time, was a country without a reservoir of freedom fighters. So Babangida just did it, the military did it, and they went scot-free because it's a nationalist party. So we had traitors in the SDP. And some of us were not happy about it. But the SDP just kept quiet. So it was left for the militant press, the civil society organization, to carry placards and demonstrate in the streets of Lagos. And they were doing that. And that is no match for any ruthless military dictator all over the world. I've read about them. And Nigerian media had a crop of committed journalists. And some of them were practicing guerrilla journalism. They'll be shut down here. The next day they will appear with some other sort of papers. That is when we remember papers like The Temple, The News, The Tell. They all broke away from other conventional media houses. They were compromised. But at the end of the day, Nupeng was left alone. People paid supreme sacrifice. Some went, like some of us who were detained in some horrible situations. I think when I go through most struggles in Nigeria and detentions, I felt I was the only Nigerian political agitator, prisoner of conscience, that stayed in a solitary confinement, in a bad prison yard, in a bad cell for 4 full years, in a very hostile climate, without trial, without being taken to the court one day. You see, it does not happen. People are taken to court. But I remembered my comrades, like people can identify with me, the younger ones like them, Falana were following them. They went to court severally. The judges said they should take me to court. The international labor organizations, they all came in, they fought, world international unions fought, but nobody ever took me to court one day for 4 years until when Abacha dropped dead. So I remained in one of the worst prisons in Bama, one of the worst prisons in the world. And I stayed there in solitary confinement for 4 good years. Nothing. And at that time, most Nigerians have gone into exile, the big ones who were in the struggle. Nupeng have been shut down. Engelson has been shut down. And the battles now started with international unions fighting for my release. Nigerian labor could not even fight for my release, and which has never happened in the history of this labor struggles all over the world. See, I was so disappointed because I felt that when we started that struggle, I felt I could be assassinated. When I went underground for about 10 weeks, I felt I could be assassinated. But I never knew one day that I would stay in a Nigerian cell for more than 3 months, that there would be a big revolt in my country. But there was no revolt. At the end of the day, it was the international labor unions that were fighting internationally to block Nigerian oil cargoes all over the world. And then some of the big agitators like Wale Soyinka, Kirin Ade, Tinubu, others, they went into exile. See, nobody thought I would come out alive from that gulag in Burma. But here I am today, 25 years after the struggle. Kokori is still alive and kicking.
The reality was very dire because people, especially those who wrote, were not sure whether they were going to be at home that very day. It was as frenetic. Even those who were like the news reporters, the tel reporters, or Tempo, those ones didn't have homes. Those of us who had homes were not always sure whether we would return home that day because we were also in the thick of it. When June 12 started, I was Abuja Bureau Chief of Concord Newspapers, and shortly after the annulment, the newspaper was shut down. And in my own personal experience, I had 2 vehicles of SSS trailing me about town, before I left town. It was actually Abiola's confidant, Olu Akerele, who drew my attention to what was going on. So that was how frenetic the atmosphere was. And in fact, it was so bad that at that time I was just located in Abuja, and I had not even had my own accommodation. I was staying with a friend of mine, and I made sure that my friend did not know that I was being trailed by members of the SSS. And there was one night we were coming home from Nikon Noga Hilton, as it was called at that time, and it was at night, and this 505 trailed us till we got to our home, and then immediately the car veered onto the premises. This 505 sped past, and the wife of my friend who was in the car said, "This vehicle has been following us since we left the hotel." And I pretended I did not know because I didn't want to make them afraid of what was going on. I knew that things were very bad, and for my own safety, I didn't tell anybody when I was leaving town. And it was in the days of fuel scarcity, so I made sure that I surreptitiously filled my tank, had a different jerry can on my boot, and by 4:30 in the morning, I woke up and told my host that I had an urgent matter to treat in Lagos. So I left Lagos before the pursuers woke up to duty. It is the beginning of closure. It is not really the closure, but it brings to the surface the conversation about what happened in those days. How do we not repeat it? Because if we have June 12 as public holiday, and we still have a semblance, even a semblance of ethnic suspicion or religious bigotry, like we have with the so-called herdsmen crisis, or we have Boko Haram, or we have problems of distrust in appointments of people in position, and so on and so forth. If we have that, we are negating the policy of June 12. Because remember, Abiola's election was an election in which every ethnic group voted in his favor, including the Fulanis, who provided the candidate of the opposition, that's Tofa, in Kano. Tofa lost the election in Kano, where he came from, and the Fulanis voted for Abiola. That was how Abiola transcended ethnic and religious bigotry, and it was a Muslim ticket. Even the Christians did not see Christ, and the Muslims did not see Muhammad. They saw Abiola. Well, in my column, I call it a glorious bride. You know, if this is what it takes to get the truth, then the truth should survive. And that is what has happened. If you say it's a bribe for me to get justice, then even if you call it Machiavellian, this is a very great Machiavellian move. Because other people had opportunities. Obasanjo had it, Yar'Adua had it, Jonathan had it. They fluffed it. Jonathan came with the University of Lagos, which is for him to say this is a Southwest team. It was not a Southwest team. Abiola's mandate was a national mandate, the only authentic national mandate we had in our how many years of democratic thinking.
I feel usually very happy whenever we celebrate June 12th because it reminds me of, especially of what transpired on that day and the days leading to the election itself. I remember interviewing Bashir Tofa in his house at Gandu Albasa in Zoo Road, Kano. I remember at that time I was accompanied to do the interview by one of my senior colleagues, Ike Okonta. Ike Okonta traveled down from Lagos to join me in conducting the interview. But he let me do the entire interview, knowing that I was the reporter on ground. Though very young at that time, he gave me the encouragement and I conducted the entire interview. And at that time, it was rare for Bashir Tofa to grant an interview, so we scored a first. Many of us didn't believe that Abiola would win the election because we felt that it was a mistake to have two Muslims on the ballot. In the polling unit located opposite Bashir Tofa's residence, palatial residence, Abiola carried the day. And then we went around the city of Kano and we saw that it was the same pattern. The inglorious decision to cancel the election, to annul the election, divided Nigeria because ultimately the same people who annulled the election began to turn Nigerians against one another, divide and rule. They started creating what you call Southern Nopeng and Northern Nopeng, creating factions in major national institutions and having one for North, one for South. I remember even NANS, the National Association of Nigerian Students, was also deliberately factionalized by these selfish leaders. At that time, that we were also, all our directors were declared wanted. Some of them fled to America, you know, and some of us vowed that we would never leave this country. My editor, Kunle Ajibade, was arrested for a story that I anchored, and they came for me. At that time, we had our office at Tejumola House, but I was lucky. I got to the office shortly after they came for me. So that same day, I called my younger sister who was working with Magnum Trust Bank at that time. I said, see, raise money for me. I want to go back to the north. And I went back to the north, stayed one day in Kano. When I got to Kano, I discovered that they had also gone to my office to look for me. And my secretary lied to them. They lied to my secretary that we were drinking pals, but they dropped their card. So we analyzed the card. We got experienced people to analyze the card that they dropped, And we saw that that card with the colors showed that they belonged to the military police. So that day, I made up my mind that I would leave Kano. But somehow, as a young boy, I felt, why should I leave Kano? I waited. I waited a little bit. And they were back in that office. But there were two of us in the outer office. There are 2 rooms. The other room, we used to put our unsold copies. There were 2 of us in the outer office. Myself and Laiwola Adeniji, who used to work for the Guardian. But after Guardian was proscribed, some of them joined our publication just to make ends meet. So they didn't want to arrest a different person. So they asked the same people who had lied to my secretary that we were drinking pals. Now asked my drinking pal, Shine Wonako. So my secretary now said, no, Abashibane is not the one. So after my secretary said so, I moved into the inner office. And that inner office has a door that leads into the expansive Yankura market in Kano. So I went into Yankura market in Kano, and from there, I went to Jos, where I hid for 3 months.
The June 12, 1993 election remains a watershed. I began to monitor that transition from 1992, recording development via the BBC's Network Africa and Focus on Africa programs on radio. And today I have a rich collection, 15 90-minute playing cassettes that I use in recording from 1992 through to about late 96. Developments around the transition and the June 12 event. And one of my prized possessions is the small transistor radio that I bought on June 12, just to capture reports. Now, June 12, we have had gainers and losers from that event. Those who believed in Babangida and the transition program, after all of that long drawn process, Nigerians who thought that finally it looked like the military were about to depart. But one thing led to another, people queued, everything went well, but close to the election, you had the intruders. As a justice, I think Ekwen, who eventually died, he gave that midnight judgment. You had the likes of Clement Akwambo, the Attorney General. You had Nzeribe and co. Just before you came in, I was just refreshing my memory by playing my cassettes. And the point I got to was where shortly while the results were being announced, just about to be concluded, Nzeribe and co. got up to say that there were problems with the election and the voting should be annulled. Eventually, the results were annulled, and it was a task statement on a sheet of paper. Incidentally, the journalist who was working with General Admiral Ihomu then, who used to be a Guardian reporter, one of those Buhari punished with Decree 2 or Decree 4 then as the military head of state, was the one who issued that statement on the sheet of paper, more or less just threw it on the streets in Abuja or wherever to announce the annulment. Now, that's somebody who eventually became a gainer from June 12 and the struggle, because when civilian eventually came, the fellow went to the House of Reps, but he did only one term. I've forgotten his name now. But he and today Thompson were the ones who were punished then. And he phased out from Nigeria's political and even social life. Represented a constituency in Delta. Now, other gainers and losers. Some have been gainers who became losers, some were losers who became gainers. And I talked about a prominent Nigerian who in this current dispensation has risen to the post of number 3 citizen and held that position for 8 years, one of the longest serving members of the National Assembly. What we have from the press is about his probable involvement among the IPP boys then who pushed for the annulment, and this statement usually credited to him that Abiola will assume that mandate over his dead body. And as I said, the man almost became a dead man when eventually General Abacha took power. Whatever we enjoy today by way of democratic governance is still about the after effect of June 12th, because yes, some lost their lives, journalists, ordinary citizens. You're talking of Papa Alfred Rewani, you're talking of Rear Admiral, this Kwarab man, Okogi, you're talking of Elegbede, this airport LCA doctor controller. People were bombed to smithereens. Kudera, the better known names, but there's so many other Nigerians, Bagara Kato. These were losers or victims who are not now in a position to even be quote unquote compensated or have their names redeemed. But it's all about history. Historical events usually have the gainers and the losers, but the lessons of history are being learned. And so the move made by this current government is still part of the lessons of history. Not many Nigerians would in 1996, 97 have thought that a day like this would come, or a moment like this would come, when a government, a sitting Nigerian government, will go into the archives and then decide to take a decision like the current Buhari-led civilian government has taken.
What actually happened? Many of the members of the political class betrayed their mandate with the emergence of General Sani Abacha as a military head of state. They betrayed Chief MK Abiola. They also betrayed the mandate given to Chief MK Abiola by Nigerians. So it was from that very point, many of them not only disowned and denied Chief MK Abiola in his moment of need, but they also identify with the military government to ensure that Abiola and his mandate were annihilated and extinguished. Now, the civil society group, the activists, the progressive aspect of the political class, the trade union, the intelligentsia, and the media took up the gauntlet to fight for the revalidation of that mandate. And from that forth, the struggle began, which led to many of the activists sent to prison, some were forced into exile, and many were killed. So, for over 2 decades now, that section of Nigerians, the civil society and the media, kept alive the flame and the light of June 12. And anniversaries were held every year, but you don't see the political class ever attending. Many of them felt that Abiola is dead, June 12 is dead, and they have moved on. And they are simply keen into it because the president has graciously decided to recognize it. On our part, in northern part of Nigeria, June 12 struggle was led by a number of people. The most prominent of them is Alhaji Balare Musa, Colonel Umar, Dr. Bala Usman, and people like even Ahmed Joda. And you've seen James Ba Magaji and some of the trade unions and very few civil society, Suleiman Ahmed, Nasir Abbas, John Danfulani, Salisu Lukman, were the very few in the north that fought for June 12. People like me were arrested and thrown to jail. I never came out of jail until Babangida was eased out of power. So, as far as we are concerned in the north, the struggle for the restoration of the mandate of June 12 was kept alive by these few personalities. And to be very fair, I could remember President Muhammadu Buhari himself once granted an interview to the news magazine where he called for the restoration and the validation of Abdullah's mandate. I will not forget that one. So as far as we are concerned, most of the people that are today invited to the villa as a honor done to them for June 12 don't actually deserve it. As far as I'm concerned, June 12, the only honor President Buhari can do to June 12 is not only to give the GCFR medal to Abiola and GCON to his vice president, but to live up to the ideals and spirits of that mandate and what Abiola stood for. Abiola stood for freedom, for justice, and for democracy. And the best way we can honor him is to ensure that we respect the rule of law as a country, and we give every Nigerian a sense of belonging, and we in every possible way ensure that the rights of the common man is well protected and defended. And there are issues with our democracy at this very moment. There are issues that borders on mindless killings of Nigerians, issues that borders on disobedience to court orders, issues that borders on violations of fundamental rights. And there is also some traces and symptoms of budding autocracy. And these are issues we need to cure ourselves with as respect to the mandate of June 12.
The experience of June 12 is extremely unique and harrowing for the Democrats in this country. It truncated the mandate of the people freely, willingly and freely given to Chief Mashood Kajumawo Abiola. And we all protested and revolted. Mothers, fathers, and grandmothers. My mother of blessed memory today went as far as going to Abuja to appeal for the restoration of the mandate and the result of the election declared. 6, majority of my colleagues, particularly 6, in the process were detained for several months. Several people were killed in the process. And NADECO was formed, National Democratic Coalition, for the actualization of the June 12. It was a watershed, really, the annals of history of democratic struggle in this country. It is fulfilling and a happy moment for us to today to celebrate the courage, the commitment, the fidelity with democratic principle and value of President Muhammadu Buhari to correct the injustice of the last 25 years. It is been. He paid the supreme sacrifice. MKO paid the supreme sacrifice for this moment. It shows that we are committed to democratic governance and we have to live by it. President Buhari is an example of that. He contested elections. He feel aggrieved at the result of that election. He went to court 3 times. So he's committed to rule of law. He's committed to the judicial process. You have to believe in that, in those processes and principles and of separation of power. Yes, if he says he did it for politics, the incident didn't come out of anything but politics. And use what you have to get what you want, to get what is necessary, to correct the lies and the falsehood, the jackboot. You don't dare do this. Some of us went to jail, we were hounded out of this country. We suffered. Our family suffered. Abiola's family was thrown into disarray. There's no way you can bring back the life of Kudirat Abiola. There's no way you can bring back Pa Alfred Rewane. Yes, and Chief Anthony Enoro died of natural cause, but his life was committed to the democratic principle of value. At what age was he handed out of this country? Pa Abraham Adesanya, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, Professor Wole Soyinka of blessed memory, Bekora Kuti, Senator Nwite, who went to jail with me, Senator Abu Ibrahim, who went to detention with me, Ame Bute, Senator Okoroafo, Reverend Father Nwulu, and many others that were in detention. And mostly of the judicial system then, and the abrogation of what is right. You have to today commend President Muhammadu Buhari. You have to, for his courage, his character, content. It's not about anything else. It's about telling the truth. It's about recognizing the injustice of the past and correcting it. Set Nigeria forward and bring back hope